Hi, boys and girls. It's me and Ari, and I am here to read to you Chapter 3 of Wayside School. Before I get started, I did want to give a happy birthday shout out to Zoe. Today is Zoe's birthday, so happy birthday, Miss Zoe. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you're staying safe and healthy along with all of you. Like I keep saying, I miss you guys, but we've got to do what we got to do during this time. I have a greenie for Ari, so I'm giving it to him. I have to give him treats if I want him in my videos, and then he doesn't even get in them. Come here. There he is. All right, so today's read aloud is, again, from Wayside School is Falling Down. And today I am going to be reading Chapter 3, which is titled Beebe's Baby Brother. So, we are going to read to find out more about Beebe's baby brother. Mrs. Jules asked Damien to pass back the homework. Beebe waited nervously. Except for art, her grades had not been very good lately. If she didn't start bringing home better grades, her parents said they wouldn't let her stay up past midnight. She did her best artwork after midnight. It's pretty late. Even I don't stay up that late. Damien handed Calvin his homework, then Todd, then Joy. "Where's yours?" asked Calvin. "I don't know," said Beebe. "Did you do it?" asked Calvin. "Yes, I did," said Beebe. "I worked extra hard on it. I hope Mrs. Jules didn't lose it." Damien finished passing out the homework. Beebe never got hers. "Beebe, will you come here, please?" said Mrs. Jules. She pushed out of her seat, stood up, and nervously walked to Mrs. Jules' desk. "I did my homework, Mrs. Jules. Really," she said. "Really." "Yes, I know," said Mrs. Jules. She held Beebe's homework in her hand. "Whew," Beebe said. "I was afraid you lost it." "No, I didn't lose it," Mrs. Jules said sternly. She showed the back of the paper to Beebe. Someone had written, "Mrs. Jules smells like a hippopotamus." "I didn't write that," exclaimed Beebe. "I love the way you smell." Mrs. Jules smiled. "But if you didn't write it, who did?" "Ray," Beebe instantly replied. "Who's Ray?" "He's my little brother, Ray. He must have snuck into my room after I was asleep. He's always playing mean tricks on me. He knew how hard I worked on my homework." "Well, we'll show Ray," said Mrs. Jules. She gave Beebe an A+. "There, I don't think he'll try that again." "Thanks," Beebe said. "You may have a Tootsie Roll Pop, too," said Mrs. Jules. Beebe took a Tootsie Roll Pop out of the coffee can on Mrs. Jules' desk, then returned to her seat. She proudly showed Calvin her A+. The next day, Mrs. Jules asked Damien to hand back another batch of homework. "How come Damien always gets to do everything?" griped Kathy. "I'm sorry, Kathy," said Mrs. Jules. "Would you like to pass back the homework?" "No," grumped Kathy. Damien passed out the homework again. Beebe didn't get hers. Mrs. Jules called her to her desk. On the back of her homework, someone had written, "Mrs. Jules has a head full of oatmeal and it leaks out of her ears." "I didn't write it," said Beebe. "Ray?" asked Mrs. Jules. Beebe nodded. "Why don't you start checking the back of your homework?" suggested Mrs. Jules. "I did when I woke up," said Beebe. "He must have done it after breakfast while I was brushing my teeth. We had oatmeal for breakfast." Mrs. Jules shook her head. Beebe said, "I just won't brush my teeth anymore." "You have to brush your teeth," said Mrs. Jules. "My parents think he's such a little angel," Beebe complained. "He's always wrecking things, and then I'm always the one who gets in trouble. Why can't you be more like Ray, they say. Yesterday he threw all of my clothes out the window. Then my mom yelled at me for it. She wouldn't believe that her little darling son would do something like that." Mrs. Jules gave Beebe another A+ and another Tootsie Roll Pop. For Friday, everyone had to write a report and read it to the class. Bibi wrote her report about George Washington. She stood at the front of the room and read it out loud. George Washington never told a lie. Not like Mrs. Jules. She lies all the time. That's why her nose is so big. And she snores when she sleeps, so Mr. Jules has to wear earplugs. Everyone was laughing. Bibi stopped reading. "What's so funny?" she asked. "Come here," said Mrs. Jules. Bibi shrugged, then walked to Mrs. Jules' desk. Mrs. Jules showed her what she had just read. "Did I just read that out loud?" Bibi asked. Mrs. Jules nodded. "I was just reading it," Bibi exclaimed. "I wasn't listening." "It was Ray again, wasn't it?" asked Mrs. Jules. "Had to be," said Bibi. "Yesterday he put toothpaste in my socks, then my mother got mad at me for making a mess and wasting toothpaste." Bibi got an A+ and another Tootsie Roll Pop. After school, Mrs. Jules called Bibi's mother on the phone. "Hello, this is Mrs. Jules from Wayside School." "What's Bibi done now?" said her mother. "Bibi hasn't done anything wrong," said Mrs. Jules. "She's a wonderful girl." "Well, that's a surprise," her mom said. "She's always causing trouble at home." "I wanted to talk to you about that," said Mrs. Jules. "I think you're being unfair to Bibi." "I think she often gets into trouble when really Ray is to blame." "Ray?" asked Bibi's mom. "Yes, I know you think he's a perfect angel," said Mrs. Jules, "but some children can be angels on the outside and little monsters underneath." "Yes, that sounds like Bibi," said Bibi's mom. "I'm not talking about Bibi, I'm talking about Ray." "Ray?" asked Bibi's mother. "Who's Ray?" Sounds like Bibi has some explaining to do. Chapter 4 is just called Homework, and here it is. So the next time I log on to here, I will be reading out loud homework to you all. If you are allowed to comment, or if you are watching this, I'd love for you to think about your favorite part of this chapter, and maybe even what is a character trait that would describe Bibi now that we know the truth. If you're allowed to comment, you can comment that for me. If not, you can just think about it. Yeah, that is all I have for you today. I hope you all have a wonderful Tuesday. Today is Tuesday. Don't know when you'll see it, but today is Tuesday. I miss you guys. I hope you are enjoying this weather. I appreciate all of the hard work you've done so far this week, and I can't wait until I see you again.